Golf, baseball, softball, fitness, soccer, you name it, Platigan Sports in Grand Island has got it. Stop by to buy, sell, or trade used fitness equipment. Trade in and trade up at Platigan Sports.
Welcome to End Zone On. I'm George Ayoub with Bobby Mills, who's with me here every Monday.
Every Monday, what a great thing.
Yeah, and you've been at this since the 60s,
yes.
Talking about high school football, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's playoff time. Bobby and I were both at the Grand Island Senior High Bellevue West game. What were your impressions of the ball game? Islanders won it 35-27.
I was so happy to see that they seemed to be resilient and answer every bell that Bell West rung, you know. And the last play, Trevor Wadalevich out-jumped C.J. Johnson and saved the day.
Saved the day.
Every time.
Well, it comes down to a play in the end zone at the end. I mean, you know, it's a good ball game. You know, my impression was the Islanders are very aggressive. Two things. The Islanders are very aggressive on offense and defense, and they played with a lot of speed, with a lot of heart.
They did.
And and it caused turnovers.
It did.
And and when the ball got on the ground or got up in the air, the Islanders went for it. It's one thing. I was also impressed with Bellevue West's ability early on to stop the Grand Island run.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
I was shocked too. At the moment I was.
And, and of course Grand Island got the run game going, and that helped. I think Pierce Allman had a nice ball game. He stays within himself.
Yes. Doesn't
try to do too much. And he ends up, throwing an accurate passes.
He does.
But he runs the ball. That little counter that he runs, where they fake the sweep and he gets up the middle. Yeah.
It's difficult to see who has the ball if you're a linebacker.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So, good high school football game. Bellevue, they were relentless as well. When the Islanders got a little momentum, they came right back and scored.
I wondered 21-7. I thought, wow, what's going to happen here? But they came
right back and scored. So the Islanders now travel to Burke. They'll play the third-seeded Burke Bulldogs, who were winners over Lincoln Southeast pretty handily. 24-3, I believe, was the score. And so, what do you know about Burke?
They have a good running back. They have a decent quarterback and a very good defense. Sometimes you might not know which Burke team shows up, but I think Grand Island, if you do the score comparisons, which some people do, Grand Island should beat Burke, But I think it'll be just the same kind of game as Bell West is. I don't think Burke can pass as well as Bell West, but they sure love that run with Logan Gear at the running back. And
and Burke's played a really tough schedule.
Oh,
they played some teams that are 7-3, and they coming into the playoffs. And so I think that it's going to be really one up front because both teams like to run. Although the Islanders are more balanced, but they key that passing game off the ability of Rojas and Meyer to get to the edge. So we'll see. And like you say, Burke's a good tackling team.
Yeah, they
are. So
we'll
see how it happens. So in Class B, a couple teams we're looking at. Aurora winners last week over Plattsmouth. They're going to meet McCook for the second time this year. They met way back in August. Remember August?
Yes, and the thunderstorm.
22. Yeah, exactly. You were at that ball game. I believe. It was 22-7.
Yeah.
Was the final, but it was closer than that, really, wasn't it?
It was. I think the delay helped Aurora. They figured some things out. In an hour and 40 minutes, you can figure some things out. And McCook was, they've gelled as the season has gone along, and that was a young team at that time. So I'm afraid this is going to be a much better game than that one was for Aurora.
And we did broadcast McCook Northwest.
Yep.
Very impressive. Very impressive, and I think you made the comment at that time that they were coming together as a team. So this is going to be a real battle. This could be one of the best ball games of this round in Class B. The York Dukes are going to play a Ralston team they know nothing about. Of course, York's playing really good football at this time of year. What do you know about Ralston?
Well, I know that they have Isaac Wallace. To me, is a D1, looking athlete. 406 yards rushing in the final game of the season. 404 last week.
That's almost 1,000.
That's almost 1,000. This kid is unbelievable, so they'll have to key on him. They're more than he is, but they've got to stop him or they won't win. But Glenn Snodgrass is pretty smart. Yeah,
Ralston's only loss, I believe, was to Scott, rather. Yeah.
So I think,
Please turn your cell phones off before you.
Yeah, I know I should. That's probably the president wanting them. No,
yeah, I'm sure it is. We're going to go to C1 where, of course, Central Catholic lost to a good Broken Bow team.
Made a great comeback,
didn't they?
They
really did. And they stayed right in it. Broken Bow had the chance kind of to blow that thing open, and Crusaders really fought back, and Broken Bow's now going to go on to meet Gothenburg, who they played back in September. 3-0 was that score.
That'll be another defensive.
So that'll be a defensive struggle again, I'm sure.
It really will, yeah. And Broken Bow, Mike Garner up there, as I've said, always has a great defense. So, boy, if you score, you better make your extra point.
Right.
In that baby.
And we failed to mention in the Grand Island game, really, it came down to the inability for Bellevue West. They're going to tie the game with very little time left. They're going to tie the game, and they couldn't get the extra point, couldn't get the snap, and they had trouble with it throughout the game. So
they did. If you look back, they lost 2 one-point ball games against. They beat Omaha North, but they lost a couple to Burke. Just by missed extra points, and Millard North, right. 50-49.
So in a game like Broken Bow Gothenburg, when you're going to have a defensive struggle, everything counts, and something is like a extra point being missed is magnified in the playoffs because it's somebody's going to go home.
And a field goal kicker helps. It really does.
It really does. Adams Central is going to beat. Maybe they will. They're going to meet Norfolk Catholic.
Under the sun.
That's a 3:00 game up in Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the second day game in the playoffs for Adams Central.
Yep.
Maybe they're acclimated to that. What do you look for in that ball game?
Boy, let me tell you something. I think Jackson Love got hurt for Norfolk Catholic, the great running back, in the Gibbon game. What a great game Gibbon played, by the way. 34-18,
right.
And it's gonna make a big difference if he plays or not. Because if he doesn't, I think Adams Central might have the edge.
Right.
And that's it. He is that big of a thing to them, and not putting a lot of pressure on Jeff Beller. He'll figure something out. But I like the chances. Yeah. The chances are pretty good if he is playing. But
I'm glad you mentioned Gibbon. They end the season 5-4, but that's as good a 5-4 team you're going to find.
But that is a tremendous effort against Norfolk Catholic.
Yeah, really did a nice job. So Adams Central heads to Norfolk. These ball games are Wednesdays,
right?
And then also at Albion, Boone Central will meet Kearney Catholic, 21-0 winners over Ord. Boone Central didn't have too much trouble with Valentine, but
You know what, George? This is another deal. Wyatt Mazur did not play in that game.
Yeah.
He has a hammy, and I don't know if he's going to play this week. Kearney Catholic's defense is really tough, and they'll pound you. But I think Boone Central will be the favorite there. But it'll make a difference if he plays.
With or without Mazur, that's going to make a difference.
Yes, it will. Yep, key players.
Those games are on Wednesday. We're going to move to Class C2. Also Wednesday games, Doniphan Trumbull, 4:00 game against Crofton, who always has a great running game.
Wow, yeah.
So this will be this should be a really good matchup of offenses, I think.
It should. They went up last year, and we thought maybe that Crofton would just grind them to death, and Doniphan ended up blowing them out in the second half. So Crofton has a little revenge factor, in their mind. That should be a contrast in styles.
Yeah, and that ball game is at Crofton.
And it's an afternoon, I suppose.
4:00 game.
Since Crofton's halfway to Saskatchewan,
right.
Or whatever. Canada, anyway.
Blue Hill is going to head out to play the
Irish of St. Pat's.
7-1 St. Pat's.
Yeah.
North Platte St. Pat's, always a great program. 23 0 winners over Cambridge. Blue Hill beat Kimball. So what do you look for there?
Blue Hill's line is going to make the difference. You and I could gain a couple of yards running behind that line. They are really big, and they open the holes for this little Keith and Drury, and that means they're good on defense too. And that's going to be a headbanger. I look for a first 1 to 21 wins maybe.
Yeah. Two other Class C2 teams we've watched all season. Carl Tesmer's Hastings St. Cecilia. The Blue Hawks beat Thayer Central. Now they're going to go up against undefeated Hershey, the 3 seed. They're going to. That ball game's in Hershey. That's going to be a tough matchup.
Ryan Smith is a friend of mine. He's a good coach out at Hershey, and he's smart, but so is Carl Tesmer. Did you see St. Cecilia only beat Thayer Central? Yeah, 16-0 after a 40-0 the week before. But, rematches like that, somebody's going to figure something out. Yeah. But that's going to be another good game out there. Hershey is just on a roll. They were last year in the playoffs, so it'll be tough.
And then Sutton's going to meet Battle Creek. Battle Creek 61-14 winners, opening round against Baird, who came in as the 15 seed.
Yeah, that was a long trip.
That was a
for
mismatch.
Those yeah, we're sorry to say.
Battle Creek's the 2 seed. They're going to meet Sutton, who won over Southern Valley 46-14 in their own right, a great offensive battle. So we might see a lot of points in this ball game.
I don't know. Battle Creek, as far as I know, still has a couple key players, including their 1,000-yard rusher that's on suspension. I hate to mention that, but they are there. It is what it is, and it could be 3 games, and that might make a difference because I like Sutton here. I really do.
Okay, we'll watch that one. That'll be another interesting game.
How about those games up there in that Magic Circle Wednesday?
Yeah,
what a
beautiful
menu.
Beautiful. You're going to have a hard time choosing what to do. We'll be right back after a word from Play It Again Sports, talk about Class D1 and D2, and some predictions. See you soon.
Do you want to trade in your used fitness or sports equipment? How about sports apparel? All your answers are at Play It Again Sports in Grand Island, where you can trade in and trade up at Play It Again Sports.
We are back on End Zone Online. Bobby Mills, George Ayoub here. We are talking playoff football. We're going to talk D1 and D2. Palmer, and we're talking about some area teams here in central Nebraska. Palmer's going to meet Overton, the number 1 seed in the West. That's going to be a tough
field by the interstate for the Overton.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup, I believe, for Palmer. But, Palmer had a great game. 63-14 winners over Sutherland. That's an 8-9 game. I mean, you don't see an 8-9 game.
I couldn't believe that score when I saw it. Palmer must be healthy. So they might give Overton
healthy
a run
and playing good football at this time of year, so that we'll keep an eye on that one. And then our friends up in Burwell, the 7 seed, they're going to battle Elm Creek, who is the 2 seed in the West. Burwell winner over Nebraska Christian, pretty easily 59-20.
That surprised me. Christian's pretty good.
Pretty good football team, and Elm Creek beat Niobrara Verdigris 54-14. That ball game is in Elm Creek. I think Burwell is probably going to be the underdog there.
Probably will, but it should be a great ball game.
Great game. And we've talked about Burwell's ability to put points on the board, so we'll see if Elm Creek is up to that challenge. And then in D2, Fullerton has a rematch with Humphrey St.Francis. Fullerton beat them 46-22. That's back in August as well.
And Humphrey St. Francis only had 1 starter returning. That was their first game, so it's going to be tougher.
They're going to be better. They're going to be better. So this is really going to be a close game, I believe.
And I'd love to see that one.
Right. Fullerton winner over Parkview Christian. Parkview came in with the 12th seed. Thought they were going to get a little higher seed, but Fullerton took care of them. Yep. Humphrey St. Francis winners over Bancroft Rosalie. And then Giltner is going to play Nebraska Lutheran. It's a tough matchup here.
It is, but I don't know even what to think about that. Nebraska Lutheran hasn't had a terribly tough schedule, but they'll meet their match there.
Exactly. Giltner loses to BDS right out of the chute, then runs the table. Yep. And Nebraska Lutheran, of course, undefeated. But you're right. I don't know if the Lutheran schedule is going to work against them because they just haven't played tough teams, or for them because they're pretty healthy, I think.
They are. So is Giltner, of course, and Poppin's up to 1,000 yards now, and that's going to be very interesting. Any score would not surprise me in that one.
Yeah.
I like the Hornets, so.
Okay. You're taking Giltner. I am too.
Yep.
Well, Elisa is taking behind the camera there. She's taking the Hornets.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So we didn't see any upsets. Stu mentioned in Class A in his column today that we didn't see any upsets.
No.
I looked through all the classes. There weren't really a lot. There were some surprising scores.
Not upsets,
but
you're right.
Really not upsets. So, it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues this week.
That could be a sign of the times,
One other thing, too, is that in the lower classes, this doesn't happen in A or B, but the lower classes now, they start to play games in succession with not as much time in between games. Right. Teams with injuries can't get kids healed up, and the same thing with conditioning. So I think those are going to be factors that some of the coaches are going to have to look for.
And one of the games that you might see something like that is when Exeter Milligan plays over in Clarks when they play High Plains. As you mentioned last week, how many minutes have those starters logged in the second half when they're up 700-0? That's just the conditioning will, either you will or you won't.
Of course, and the last factor, of course, this is Nebraska, so weather might be a factor.
It doesn't.
The week looks pretty good. Tomorrow's going to be cold and rainy, but I think that's going to get out of here. But in northwest Nebraska, they expect heavy snow tomorrow, so we could see some up by Broken Bow.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we could see snow being a factor in some ball games, and of course, we always have to be concerned about whether or not they can actually play the game. So those are all things I think we're going to have to consider.
One question for the mastermind here: did you think that wind would play a big factor in Grand Island's game with the passing game?
Well, I guess you think about it. I thought about it. It was going to play a factor. But it's probably more an issue in a kicking game.
It is. And maybe the quarterback for Brazil for Bell West, he overthrew some targets because of a tailwind.
The wind, ladies and gentlemen, the wind was really 40 miles an hour, and then it dropped off,
and then it came
back, and which was really unusual. And I think it came back stronger.
It
was
did.
blowing
You're
stronger
right.
in the fourth quarter than the first quarter. We were talking on the sidelines, some of us. When you throw with the wind, you also have to adjust, even as you do against it. But because they were overthrowing kids.
And on Bell West, I think
that ball
Pierce
sailed,
adjusted better.
Yeah, I did too. But the ball sailed quite a bit.
It
A
did.
couple pickoffs there. So we could talk all morning, but we don't have time. So we're going to see you next week. On Monday, Bobby Mills, the 1,000-yard guy, George Ayoub here for theindependent.com. Thanks to Elisa Reitz behind the camera. We'll see you next Monday. Get out and see a high school playoff football game if you get a chance.
Do you want to trade in your used fitness or sports equipment? How about sports apparel? All your answers are at Play It Again Sports in Grand Island, where you can trade in and trade up at Play It Again Sports.